Hey guys, I just want to talk a bit about my thoughts on Grounded 2 early access that just hit a few days ago. I'm a huge Grounded fan, and we played an absolute butt ton of the game. We just finished a pretty copious playthrough at 47 plus hours now, and I just want to give my thoughts on it real quick. I'm sure some people are curious about the game and how it is compared to the first one and where it's going, etc. So I'll try to raw dog through some points real quick right now. Yeah, so hopefully they help you if you're, wondering about the game or the future of the game, and you haven't played it yourself, etc. Or just to see thoughts of other people if you haven't played the game. So I usually like to start with the pros. Good stuff about the game. Music was banger, actually. It gave me like Stranger Things vibes in a lot of areas, some cyberpunky vibes. But either way, the music was good. It had different combat music for different mobs, good environmental music. They didn't have like awkward pauses in music where it's just a lot of, nothing happening and you're just awkwardly farming. So good fill with not just music but sound design as well, crickets at night and all that kind of stuff. So the world from an audio perspective definitely felt very alive, and there were some nice beats in the background akin to kind of like Subnautica a bit. Subnautica had some nice chill beats while you were farming before any scary stuff happened. Good biomes so far. We have a bit of a snow biome with like the ice cream truck. There's a little snow freezer area, and there's like a barbecue pit with like a kind of a fire area, similar to the first game. So all those kind of things from the first game happen. A lot of biomes we haven't seen yet, like underwater stuff is coming later, so there's no aquatic biome just yet. But so far, a nice variety of things. But it is very similar. Like, it's a very similar setting to the first one. It's the same, grass blades and dry grass and all that kind of stuff, and kind of just generally grassland area that you saw from the backyard of the first one, with some cool variations. There's some hedges again. There's like a pine needle forest, things like that. So a bunch of oak trees around. So a lot of familiar and some nice new stuff too. So we'll see what else they throw out. But variation's good because it is fun running around the general grassland area, let's call it. But seeing new stuff is fun, especially like landmarks, climbing a bookshelf, things like that. And then, of course, what the first game did very well, this game already does really well, in my opinion. Exploration, super fun, right? One of the main big things of the game is just exploring, seeing, doing, finding new bugs, finding new mats, finding weapons sometimes, some legendary weapons out there now. So it's really cool. And, of course, one of the big additions that they have is mounts, right? Let's talk about mounts for a second. Overall, mounts are great. They're really cool. They're fun. They help in various ways. They're super good for quality of life, especially the ant mount. You can only have 2 mounts in the game right now. So red soldier ant or orb weaver spider. Orb weaver is more of like a warrior. You get it like post story. It's more of like a fighting mount. You can't haul or anything with it. The ant can fight as well, but not as well. It's better for hauling stems, things like that. So really good QOL, and it's so much easier to build with them because it's just so much faster to go out, get some stems, come back, go out, get some stems, come back. So a lot of that stuff is expedited. And just traversing the world is expedited. Now, the world that they came out with for early access now is about a third of the map, they said, and according to them, the area is as big as the entirety of the first game. It is pretty big. It's made to feel a little smaller because of the mounts. They're pretty fast. But I was worried that I was like, oh, are you going to do that thing where it's like, oh, our world is like 3 times bigger than the first one, but you get these mounts that move incredibly fast, so the world actually feels really tiny. No, actually, it still felt great traversing the world. There are still dangers, bugs jumping out. Now, the issue with mounts is, and again, and I'm going to mention this a few times, and you know what, I'll just mention it now. Overall, it's early access. It's the first early access build. So there's just going to be issues, right? So the mounts, especially the spider mount, is a little annoying. Would get caught on like leaves and grass and little twigs and have trouble jumping over things. Sometimes just gets like you can't enter an ant hill on your spider mount, so it kicks you off your mount when you try to go into a place with your mount that you're not allowed. But the spider specifically would get stuck there, and you'd have to desummon it and resummon it. And there were issues with sometimes your like mount would die, but it wouldn't die, and it would go back to get healed, and summoning and desummoning mounts. So there's clearly some bugs there. But overall, a great addition to the game. Hi, Mr. Cat. overall, a great addition to the game. I can't wait to see where they go with it. I will add one probably unpopular opinion right now. I really hope, they already said they're going to add more mounts, water mounts, and probably eventually flying mounts. I'm not really a fan of the flying mount concept, and we'll talk about this in a future video at some point as they add more to the game. I don't want to get into it now. I'm fine with them adding it post-game once you've done most of the stuff, but if you're able to just kind of fly over the entire world before getting a chance to explore it and dealing with its intricacies and difficulties, I think it takes a lot away from the exploration of the game, but that's nor here nor there because they don't exist right now, so we'll see. Crafting Gathering, same as the first game, but just better. There's more stuff. A lot of the same buildings are there, some new buildings, some great QOL. I would say the best thing they've added for quality of life right now is the Omni tool. So in the first game, you would have to craft your axe and your shovel and your hammer. And what else was there? And the dagger for vines, that's your aunt does that now, so you don't need a dagger anymore. And there was one more that I'm forgetting right now. But either way, you would constantly have to have these tools on you, repair them when you get the next level, find the mats, build them, blah, blah, blah. They came out with something called the Omni tool now, which is essentially you always have all of your tools with you at all times. They don't take bag space. They don't have durability, anything like that. And you just get materials and research and stuff to upgrade them through the tiers as you go through the game with higher level tiers. You upgrade Omni Tool, Omni Axe level 2, etc. And it's just kind of like a smart system. So if you go up to a rock that's breakable and you just interact with it, you'll take your Omni Hammer out and smash the rock. I think it's great. I love it. It takes away from all of that irritation of just running around. Your bags are filled with like 5 extra tools. You're leaving some tools back at your base. Oh no, there's some grubs. I needed grubs. Oh, but I didn't bring my shovel. Oh man, my axes, my hammer's about to break because I'm bashing this ladybug in the head, but now there's some quartzite here and now I can't farm it. All that stuff's gone. I think it's like just a great addition to the game. Great system. It's just so much less of a nightmare, especially in co-op when multiple people need multiple tools or want multiple tools. So just awesome QL there. Crafting Gathering, otherwise, it's great. Everything you'd expect. All the tier 1, T2, T3. I think they're eventually going to T4. A lot of the familiar stuff's there. Some new stuff. Awesome. One of the most fun parts of the game. And generally, even in this early access build, there's a lot of stuff to grind if you're into it. There are still tons of molars to find. I got most of them in my playthrough, but I mean, there's just some of them are really obscurely hidden. A lot of chests and hidden treasures, and you can still build a ton in your base and new types of walls. Even in this early access build, you get like pine walls and stuff like that. Lots of raw signs to farm and collect for all the different cooking recipes and all that kind of stuff. So lots to do even in this early access build. Even though I played 45 plus hours, I could probably easily squeeze another 5 to 10 just through building and sandboxing alone. I mean, sandbox you can do unlimited if you want, but in terms of goals I had set up for myself that I didn't finish yet. And finally, the story so far. Hard to say. It's early access. I don't really know where it's going. So far, it's intriguing. They've built mystery and new character. I don't want to spoil if you haven't seen anything, but there's a lot of like, oh my God, what's going on? How did we end up here again? Who is this person? Who's this other person? What's going on? And there's a lot of sketchy stuff, with some of the characters in the previous games and blah, blah, blah. So far the story is in development. It's kind of like, oh, what's going on? So kind of a nod to mystery of the story building. And, so far it's okay. It's not any Death Stranding 2 style craziness, but so far it's, nice little fun story, kind of similar to the first game, kind of same vibes as the first game of like uncovering a mystery and a scandal and that kind of stuff. Cons, some not so great stuff. Again, preface, it's early access, I know, but I can't help but you have to mention it, right? Performance is probably one of the most noticeable issues compared to the first game because everybody knows Grounded 1, at least for most people, was hyper well optimized by the time it was full product launch. Just ran really well, looked nice, whatever. This game looks great. It looks very similar to Grounded 1, just slightly better graphics, the same cartoony vibe and all that kind of stuff. But performance is pretty rough, man. It's pretty rough. I don't have the most cutting edge system, but it's still a pretty solid system. And I was usually I had to turn down render scale a fair bit. I ran on medium or high instead of maxed out everything, and I was still probably on average 50 to maybe 60 FPS. And there seems to be some kind of memory leaky stuff that as the game went on, it was just chunking FPS, freezing up 10, 20 FPS in some areas. I'd have to do restarts constantly to the game. So hopefully they fix that up. And just some biomes in general, like the snow biome, the ice cream truck. It was just rough FPS, and there was just 30 average FPS. So performance needs to be cleaned up. Some crashes as well here and there. Not too many. I think like 3 or 4 over the course of the 45 hours, but definitely needs to be cleaned up, and hopefully they do. I mean, it was kind of similar with the first game. They cleaned it all over time. We know, at least based on their early access roadmap, that we're expecting at least about a year of early access. So lots of time for them to fix stuff up, which hopefully they do. But so far, yeah, it was a little rough. With that, of course, there were quite a few bugs. Okay. Quite a few bugs. But there, jokes aside, there were quite a few bugs. Issues with your bag not spawning properly, your bag despawning, items despawning. They did fortunately put in like a game repair, spawn your bag at the starting location thing, but even when you did that, you'd go over there, your bag was missing, you'd have to relog, the bag would appear. Lot of issues with bugs, like literally the insects spawning inside of rocks, inside of roots, under things, inside of objects. You could still hit them through it. They could hit you through it, but they just kind of sit there otherwise. Just that kind of stuff. That, again, early access, but, so it's to be expected within reason. But, yeah, there was just, like, definitely some issues with that kind of stuff. A lot of different just things that need to be cleaned up. So, again, over time, hopefully, if we were having this conversation on the dawn of 1.0 launch for Grounded 2, it'd be a little more alarming. But right now, it's just needs to be mentioned, and, we'll keep an eye on it as the new builds come out. Building as well itself, the building system's still great. I think it's super fun, one of the best in survival crafters, and I've played a lot of them. And, just base management, like storage management, the hot deposit, all that good stuff still there, but it's still a little glitchy. Things like pebble foundation, it's not a flat surface. So if you're trying to build something on it, the blueprints waggling all over the place and stuff. And some buildings don't snap together. And there are some glitches with like little rocks on the ground that prevents you from building foundation and walls and stuff like that. So again, it goes into the pile of like, and I think they've already mentioned some of this stuff they're already aiming to clean up, maybe even in a major patch as part of the major patch next week. So overall, the building was very familiar from Grounded 1 and made better, but still has some of the jank from Grounded 1, and also just some kind of bugs and issues with it as well. 2 other complaints. One of them is like a half complaint. Nighttime. Nighttime in this game is way darker than the first game. Yeah, you can turn your gamma up and then get flashbang during the daytime, but by intent, it is a fair bit darker and more dangerous. And quite frankly, the atmosphere is awesome, and I love it, and I don't want them to change that. But the problem is that combination plus combat makes it very frustrating. The reason being that to really properly see your parry timings and block and stuff like that and what your enemy is doing, which, by the way, I played on WoW difficulty. I say we because I started co-op and then we ended up solo. We played WoW difficulty just like in the first game, and it's a fair bit harder than the first game. It's pretty unforgiving, so you want to make sure you time those parries and blocks and all that kind of stuff. And there's a dodge button now, which I like barely ever use because you're just not used to it. But nonetheless, there's a dodge button with iframes. The problem is if you can't see your timing, things will just 1 and 2 shot you, and it gets frustrating. And we all know from Grounded 1 how grueling runbacks are and repairs and all that kind of stuff. That's all still there. So to do that, you pull out a torch. If you pull out a torch, you cannot use your shield. And shields are even more important, arguably, for survivability, unless you've mastered parrying, which you will not master parrying at the very beginning because you need to learn, right? You learn by doing and practicing and getting better, and you're going to miss sometimes, or something's going to hit you in the back and you don't know. So the choice constantly of, do I have my torch out with a one-hander, or do I put my shield on but then I can't see anything and like when to block and stuff, was really frustrating throughout the entirety of the playthrough. So much so that as soon as nighttime hit, we were just desperately asleep just to get it out of the way. Easy solution, passive lighting system. That's it. Make it a mutation, not a bad suggestion that I got from my community yesterday. Just make like the easiest, in my opinion, just one of those like general upgrade tools that you would get in various ways, like upgrading your Omni tool or whatever. Just make like a belt light, right? Just like a little belt light that you can turn on and off. It has the same power as the ever burning torch. Turning it on drains, some fuel in proper grounded fashion. You refill that fuel with whatever material it would be and turn it off during the daytime. That way you can fight in the light and you still have the cool nighttime environment, which is really scary sometimes, and enemies, red eyes jumping at you and stuff. You only have your little radius of light. It's a really fun, immersive environment, but there's a very fine line between that and really frustrating combat. So they just need some kind of passive light system. I know the first game had the Firefly helmet, which was like pretty good. You still have to replace your helm and lose your 3-piece bonus, which is even more prominent in this one. There's more RPG mechanics and stat mechanics, and a little more focus on like stat bonuses and stuff. So it'd feel even worse now having to equip that helmet. But even, hey, man, you know what? I'll take that over what it is currently. And hopefully, again, it's just one of those things that early access build on. We haven't added Fireflies in yet. We're listening, blah, blah, blah. So here's my feedback. I'm leaving it at the door. The final, it's not really like a complaint of mine because I know what I'm getting into when I play Grounded and the grind that exists, but it's more of like a warning to other people and a warning to the devs about the inclusivity of other people playing this game. So we got to the final dungeon of the game or of the early access portion of the game. And there wasn't really any warning, right? That you're doing it. You just kind of like, you're going towards it, but you don't really realize what you're getting yourself into. Now, everybody who's played Grounded 1 will kind of know, but if you haven't played Grounded before and you're playing on the hardest difficulty and all that kind of stuff, you don't tend to carry an absolute ton of mats on you at all times. So when you kind of wander into this situation, having what you usually need to kind of get through like a day or two of grinding and get back to your base, and you start what was a pretty grueling like dungeon grind, going through floors towards the final boss of the early access story. I mean, man, by the time you got to the boss, you were empty on everything. Your gear was almost broke. Yeah, there were some water coolers on the way, and you got like, some granola bars, which aren't great for food, but like you're hungry, your stuff is almost broke, you don't have a lot of repair items on you, blah, blah, blah. Let's say you learn your lesson and you bring repair things with you next time. And mind you, there's no generic repair item yet in the game, like there was in the first one, which they really need to add. So if you're using the ladybug shield, you got to bring ladybug parts. You got to bring specific parts for each item, which is for some people a little bit too much of a grind, because repairing and Grounded was always like, hard is not the right term, but it was definitely, it's a grind, right? Like, it's punishing. Dying was very punishing. This is how they made it punishing. If your shield breaks, you have to go kill a ladybug or two every time, kind of thing. In the first game, they added a generic repair item that you can kind of use various bug parts of whatever you might have excess of to just make a general repair item. I think it's only for tier 2 and above. I can't remember for sure. They don't have that in this game yet. So you're not exactly running around with ladybug parts and wolf spider parts and whatever other parts for your armor just to repair. And if you get in this grueling dungeon, which was pretty far away from wherever you built your base, and you end up with a bunch of broken gear, and now all of a sudden you watch the cinematic to start the final boss fight with not a lot of stuff on you, chances are you're going to die, and all your stuff's going to break. And then what happens? You got to manually run all the way back through the dungeon, mount, and go all the way back to your base, repair, possibly farm a bit, prep properly, and then come all the way back, regrind through the dungeon if mobs have spawned. You've opened a couple of shortcuts along the way, but nonetheless, and then do the boss again. And hey, if you're playing on the hardest difficulty and maybe you're not great at the game or whatever, and it happens again, and you die again and run out of materials because you keep dying and dying and dying, and you're stubborn like me and you don't want to turn the difficulty down, you got to do it again. All the way back to the base, farm a bit, prep, come back. So Grounded has always been a game about like really proper preparation and stuff, but sometimes some things are just really friggin' hard, man. They're just hard, and you're going to go through mats. And the reason I'm kind of putting this in the con section is not, for me, it's fine. I am a glutton for a punishment. I'm a masochist. I always play the hardest difficulty and grind, and I'm used to this, and I can tolerate the run back and whatever. But a lot of players are going to get into the situation that we got ourselves in, and they're going to be like, oh, I don't want to spend 30 minutes going back to my base and farming right now. I just want to do the boss again. So what's the solution? I don't know. I mean, there's lots of solutions. Some kind of Hearthstone fast travel back to your base, maybe on like an hour cooldown or something. Definitely desperately add those generic repair materials for your gear, whatever. But like, there's going to be inevitably a lot of people that are just gonna check the heck out when they're like, oh my God, I have to run all the way back. And then back again. And then back again. And it's not even necessarily a difficulty thing, because players adjust difficulty to their skill level and desire and whatever. If it's something that's meant to be something challenging in the game, even just by playing the game, killing mobs, even if it's on easy difficulty, you're going to go through repairs, right? So that's definitely something that I just wanted to mention, because it's going to be, some people are going to get frustrated with it. It was pretty rough in the first game in some areas. And considering this was the first like major dungeon, it was like pretty unforgiving. it was pretty rough. It's pretty rough. So we'll see what they do. But you know, just a warning. You are going, like, just a warning. If you're getting the gut feeling that you're entering maybe a bit of a dungeon grind, like a lab area or something, prep, over prep. Bring a lot of stuff with you. You'll thank me later. All right. That's it for the major cons of the game. That I had, at least. Again, you know, early access, blah, blah, blah. There are a couple of not exactly pros or cons that I just wanted to mention off the top of my head while we were playing. There's still some of the new mobs they put in. There's still some insects that are just irritating to fight straight up. That's just a personal opinion. I don't know. Some people it might have been like, you know, it's definitely the weapon I was using. Like the small cockroaches are just like super annoying to fight, right? Like, they would jab at you and then like backpedal away from you. And I was using a dinky little sword at the time that had barely any reach. It was made better putting a spear on, by the way. So you're still going to get those situations. If you hated mosquitoes in the first game, there's mosquitoes everywhere now. They're more or less the same. They don't float away as much, but they're more or less the same. Things like farming bees was really annoying. There wasn't like a great grounds for farming bees yet, at least. There were some areas where sometimes they'd land, but really they were just flying all over the place. And you're hoping to snipe one down or just find one on a rock somewhere. And you need a lot of bee farming if you're, you know, building the stuffed bugs for buffs and stuff like that. So yeah. As I mentioned earlier, there's also cold and hot environments where you can imagine you want to be appropriately geared for it. So there's like an anti-sizzle suit and like a cold suit and, you know, smoothies to boot. So you want to be like well prepped. But it was definitely a bit of a grind in some of those areas. Chill builds up and slows you down, especially if you're playing in co-op. Spoilers, the three set bonus to the chill suit is that when you kill something, when you land the killing blow on something, it reduces your chill meter. But if you're playing in co-op and your buddy keeps stealing it, I hate you, Josh, then you start to get in a pretty bad situation. So if you're not carrying any spicy candy with you, then, well, yeah, you're eventually going to get frozen and move at snail's pace. And it just so happened that the majority of the enemies there are scorpions, and scorpions also do the annoying poke you and dodge backwards thing. So when you're moving like this, trying to hit them back because your chill is at 75%, it's like fun conceptually. And I love that kind of stuff where you have to prep for like different cold and survival crafters and different, you know, gas in this game and all that kind of stuff. But in practice, it got a little bit annoying going through that entire area, moving at 75% reduced movement speed because, yeah, it was hard to reset your stuff. So, again, one of those things, just bring like a million spicy candies with you until they maybe rebalance it a bit. We'll see. And finally, one of the major systems from the first game, I don't really call it a major system, but one of the systems from the first game that a lot of people have asked about, the raids, right? The X insect is seeking revenge on you situation, where they would attack your base, larvae would attack your base, or weavers would attack your base, whoever would attack your base. That is still in the game, but it's changed. So you do get raided, but you don't, your base does not get raided, anymore. You get raided now, wherever you are. So if you're not in your base, you're just out like killing a ladybug, you will get a bunch of enemies, orc enemies, spawned near you. and they will attack you immediately. They hit very hard. So this has got pros and cons, right? Good stuff. No more, I'm a million yards across the map. My base is about to get attacked. I have to stop what I'm doing and head back. Hopefully I have zip lines built up, blah, 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 blah. You don't have to worry about that anymore because you get attacked where you are. On the contrary, sometimes you don't want to get attacked where you are and you have to pause what you're doing because you're about to get attacked. Now, they do give you good warning, and the raids seem to happen at 8 p.m. on the dot every time at 2000. Every like third or fourth day, something like that. So you know it's coming, so you can prep for it. You certainly are warned a lot more than the first game about it, as far as like a timer is concerned. The cons, though, are really, and you're probably not going to like me saying this, is that there's not really any punishment to them. If you don't want to deal with them, you can just run away, or you can just die and res, and they will despawn. So the penalty really is like the 10 or 20% durability hit to your gear. That's it, right? So it's up to you how you want to deal with it. It was kind of nice. I mean, it's annoying to get your base destroyed. They don't even touch your base now. If you're at your base when they spawn, they literally just walk around doing nothing if you're like on an elevated surface. Acorn turrets are incredibly overpowered now, so you just sit in an acorn turret, kill them, move on. I would like to see some, like, the benefit to killing them is you get 350 raw science. But the downside is, like, if you don't want to deal with it, just dying seems kind of weird too. Like, there should be some kind of punishment for not dealing with it properly. But again, the base getting destroyed is not a good one, right? As we know from the first game. So, I don't know. Again, hey, I'm the consumer. Here's a problem. You fix it. You're the dev. Acidine thing of me to say. But the reality is I don't know what a good solution is. I'm just saying that it feels kind of weird, right? I don't know. Maybe up the rewards a little more to make it a little more tempting to kill them. Maybe you don't need to be punished, but rather overly rewarded for killing these difficult waves would be a good start. Could be, right? But either way, just something to note. Those are still there. They've changed to be targeted on the player rather than the base, and they will target you wherever you are. Okay. My 8 to 10 minute video is probably 30 minutes now. Nothing else to say. I'm sure I missed a bunch of small things as we played for our playthrough. You can always check out our playthrough if you're interested on our second YouTube channel, Sloot Plays. All of our games are there. A little self-plug there for a second. But seriously, if you do want to see the details of the playthrough, it's all there and see kind of how the game looks. Have at it. Otherwise, these are my early thoughts after 45 plus hours in the game. And I'm excited for them to add more and see what they do. Hopefully they hammer these issues out. But, I mean, I love Grounded, and this is, in my opinion, a great start to the second one. So hopefully this video helped you either make a decision to try it or just inform you on things and just spawn some discussion. Otherwise, yeah, take it easy, have fun, and have fun with the game if you buy it.